Hello, everyone. We are back with another awesome conversation. I'm here today with my former client and dear friend, Jody. Jody, thank you so much for being here. I'm so jazzed for this conversation.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat about all this.
Yeah. So why don't we jump into it with how we know each other?
Okay, well, during the pandemic, I decided that I was going to stop drinking.
Mhm.
As I think a lot of people decided, oh boy, this might be
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it wasn't my first foray. I had done like a 6 month stint about a year before we started working together.
Mhm.
And I believe that I was listening to all kinds of podcasts and sober readings, and I was just doing a lot of my own kind of research into it and trying to kind of white knuckle it. and
Yeah.
and I heard about you. So I listened to you on a podcast, and then I found your information in the notes for the podcast, and then I reached out to you directly.
Awesome. Okay. And can you remember? So you kind of just touched on it, but can you remember what your life looked like prior to our work? What was happening with alcohol and what was prompting you to like take a look at your relationship with alcohol at that time?
Yes, absolutely. So I had my son when I was 40, and that was a big transition for me. Obviously, being an older parent, I had had like a whole life, and, and a routine before embarking on that journey.
Mhm.
And it was pretty stressful, that change. And those 3 years after he was born, and before I originally got my first 6 months of sobriety before I met you, uh,
Mhm.
I just felt like I was kind of losing a bit of control around
Mhm.
my drinking, and felt that I was relying on it too much as a crutch to relax, to take the edge off, and to just kind of cope with all the new feelings and all the new responsibilities. And so I felt like things were getting a little bit out of control. And I
Mhm.
felt like I was having a hard time juggling like this being a new mom, working. And it just kind of felt a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious because you already had that experience of 6 months of sobriety under your belt. So, like, you demonstrated to yourself that you could do it. What made you want support by the time you reached out to me?
Well, because I had done those 6 months, and it was not easy. And I felt like I just didn't know what tools were available to me to
Mhm.
continue to stay sober. And
Mhm.
when the pandemic hit and things just were so untenable and confusing and scary in the world, it was very easy for me to be susceptible to kind of going right back into my old habits, especially being stuck in the house
Yeah.
and not being able to go anywhere, even to the grocery store or anything like that. And I just was really, I think it was boredom. And I
Mhm.
think it was also just chaos and fear.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of didn't have the tools in place to navigate through that time without going backwards in terms of my drinking. And so
Yeah.
then I lost, after the 6 months, then I started again. And then we went to the lockdown directly. And then that was in March, right? March, the lockdown started. And,
Mhm.
and then I was only drinking for about 3 months. And then I reached out to you, or
Yeah.
very shortly afterwards, reached out to you like, okay, I want to do it this time. I felt so much better before when I had the 6 months of sobriety. And I
Mhm.
just like, I gotta take control of this, but I have to invest in myself to make sure that it's a solid go this time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I hear you. I think, we can do lots of things for a shorter period of time, which also isn't to say that 6 months is like super short, because that's definitely an accumulated period of sober time. But, I think sometimes when we don't have the tools and we don't have the actual systems and skills in place, we bump up against our own limitations and then we often revert back. So you were very smart to seek out support and recognize like, okay, these other things are happening, like the boredom, like the lockdown, like the chaos, like the uncertainty, the fear. And that could very easily take me back to where I was.
Yes. And
Yeah,
it had. And then I just was like, this is not how I want to go
yeah,
forward in my life.
yeah.
And, I think it was also a time of so much change just with
Mhm.
the world coming out of that ghastly time. And it just felt right. It felt like a rebirth in a lot of ways, like for
Yeah,
so many things. And
yeah,
it just seemed like the right time to just make a bunch of changes. And that was
yeah,
like the biggest one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Um, so where are you now in terms of your sobriety journey, what it looks like and feels like, what feels possible in your life?
Yes. So now I am almost 5 months into 5 months, 5 years. It's like 5 months, 5 years into
Yeah.
my sobriety, and
Mm.
it it's weird. It feels like yesterday, but it
Yeah.
also feels like so long ago. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. But I'll tell you what it feels like is freedom in a lot of ways. That's the word
Yeah.
I describe it. I just feel so much more calm. I feel so
Yeah.
much even keeled.
Yeah.
And, I was mentioning before we got on the video that I did this chaperoning of a child's children's field trip today. And that is the
Yeah.
sort of would have absolutely, after I got off the bus and all that chaos in the past, I would have been like, oh my God, this was like bananas and I need to have a drink or something. But
Yeah.
um and it's actually funny because one of the other mothers said that she's like, I need a nap, I need a drink. And
Yeah.
I just looked at her and I thought to myself, I feel so grateful that that's not my go-to anymore.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
literally was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to go see a couple of clients that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get some lunch and I'm going to
Yeah.
be quiet and not talk to anybody or listen to anyone screaming for a while. And
Yeah.
that's all cool. And there was
Yeah.
there's not that like constant noise in my brain about, like, do I have enough wine at home? Am I going to run out? Should I go get more? It's just that constant talk chatter that I used to,
Yeah.
and it's just so freeing to not ever think about it. It's like
Yeah.
I really don't think about it. I just think about other things now, and
Yeah.
it's really nice. So,
Yeah. 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 I love the freedom part. That's how I describe my experience in being sober too. I'm just like, it feels like anything is available to me. And the mental load that it used to take up, like the planning, the thinking about it, the like obsessing over it, all of that is gone. And it
yeah,
just feels so much more spacious. Um, and it's interesting, you're actually the third person that I've talked to in like 2 days, probably. I've had a bunch of client calls yesterday and today. And literally, you and so many others are like, I am so grateful that I don't turn to alcohol to move through fill in the blank, whatever challenging situation, whatever chaotic moment, whatever stressful thing, because I mean, I think there's gratitude in that you have other ways to move through, but also in the I think recognition that alcohol like mostly just makes it worse, right? And
so not maybe not in the moment.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
depending on the situation, but
yeah,
all later, all
yeah,
later.
yeah, yeah,
It's just then all the anxiety around it, and like you feel
yeah,
guilt, and then oh, I should have done all these things yesterday and I didn't do them, and just like all that the mental space that it takes
yeah,
up,
yeah,
and I just yeah, it's just total freedom to not have to think like that anymore.
yeah, yeah. Oh, agreed. Yeah, it's interesting because obviously like I do this in my work, but like in my personal life, like you, I'm just like, I don't think about that. It's not I'm clear that it isn't for me. It doesn't have a place in my world and in my life. And I also truly feel completely free of it, which is lovely because that's the opposite of what it was when I was drinking. So um, okay, so I know it's been a minute, but can you remember the main things that we did in our work together? So maybe that was like habits or confidence building or self-care or sitting in difficult emotions. But can you remember the main things that we worked on that helped
Yeah.
you get to where you are?
Yes. So I think the key things for me at the beginning, and then less throughout because I already had those in my kit
Yeah,
were we did we did some EFT and tapping, which I still
yeah,
use. I still think
yeah,
it's so valuable. We did, different breath work, which I think
hmm,
also really still helps me.
yeah,
Um, we definitely did a lot of talk about action items
hmm, yeah,
we were going to meet and what, you know, specifically. And I think that's
yeah,
really important, what specific things that I was going to work on, things,
yeah,
goals that I had that I wanted to achieve.
yeah,
And so there was always a forward thinking plan, which I think was really important. That's how I kind of do best, is to have like some
yeah,
homework too.
yeah.
Um, so we always had some things that we were working towards. We did some mental rehearsal things, which I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Thinking of yourself in the future and um, visualization of that. I thought that was
yeah.
really powerful.
Hmm.
And also, the morning routine, I think was super, super important for me, especially at the very beginning of
Yeah,
having this plan in the morning to get up and set my day right. And
yeah.
I would, I get up early before everyone else in my household and have those
Mhm.
moments that were quiet, which were few and far between, especially then, and
Yeah.
just, and, meditate, breathe, sit outside if it was nice out, have my coffee, just like start the
Mhm.
day with just me and my thoughts and, you know, how I was going to have a good day or a positive day
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not already like when I was drinking, I would get
Yeah.
up and be like, oh crap, it's late. Or like,
Yeah.
like that panicky feeling and like you're already behind, you're
Yeah.
already feeling anxious and you start the day that way. And then
Yeah.
the mood is all over the place. And, so that was so important was
Hmm.
creating morning habits and
Hmm.
evening habits too, and getting to bed earlier and getting more sleep, more regular
Yeah.
sleep, and maybe reading before bed, shutting down the phone, those things. Those were all
Hmm.
things for.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So there was a lot in there, but routines and habits, some self-care, um, shifting gears, and maybe you can let me know if this was your experience. I think I know, but like, especially as a mom and like a newer mom at that time, um, actually, in this work, prioritizing your own needs and your own care as opposed to taking care of everybody else and ensuring everybody else's needs are met and then you get whatever scraps are left over. Like, does that feel accurate that it became about also prioritizing you and your needs?
Yes, it absolutely
Yeah.
did. And I
Yeah.
also think one of the biggest pieces for me, this my personal struggle, that we worked on a lot, was my ability to articulate what I needed and to be
Yeah.
able to say. I think that was so much of what was going on for me, was just that I didn't have the feeling that I could use my voice to
Yeah.
ask for what I needed or to say what was going on with me. And so it all kind of stayed inside.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that bubbles up and you try to find a way to like cope with all the things you're not saying. And
Hmm.
there were a lot of stressors, going around. And it just now, it's so funny. It took me this long in our conversation today to get to that point, to remember that, because that's
Yeah.
not the me that I am now. Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to even think about. I mean, I'm sure you remember when we worked together that was like, it was so hard for me
I
to,
do.
do you remember? It was so
Yeah.
hard to say to my husband, like, this doesn't work for me, or I'm
Yeah.
not happy with this. Like, it just,
Yeah.
I going along for so long, just kind of going along with things that I
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily happy to go along with, just to try
Yeah.
to keep the peace, or just because I thought what I thought was going to happen if I said something wasn't even what was going to happen. It's just what I
Yeah.
story I told myself that was going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And now I think back to how I was so like I was so incapable of expressing myself at times.
Hmm.
It was so important to express myself, and now that is not the case. Like I think even to myself now, just the other day, I was like, wow, I just said exactly how I felt. And it was like, without even thinking. And
Yeah.
that's something that I could only do now because of the work we did together, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's huge. And I think embedded in that is like boundaries, advocacy, self expression. I mean, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if there were any like people pleasing tendencies within
Oh,
that,
yeah,
that obviously would also be addressed in that as well, right? So
right.
that's a lot. That's a lot, and that's a big deal. And I very vividly remember where you were and how hard it was for you to say what you needed or to say if something didn't work for you. So I love hearing that this is just who you are now. You say exactly what you need, and that's just that.
Yeah, it's that's been life changing, and it's
Yeah.
interesting because I think about where I was 5 years ago to where I am now. Now I say no a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
which other people may not like as much, but I feel great about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes. I
you
feel
know,
great about it for you too.
I feel awesome about it. Like now I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that. But this is what I do want to do. So, either we can do that together or I could do it up by myself, but we can circle back and get together later because I'm going to do what I want to do. And
Yeah.
feels really, it feels really freeing to know what I want and
Yeah.
to say it and to not feel apologetic for it. And I think
Yeah.
and to not feel guilty or like, oh, what's somebody going to think if I don't go to this or that? It
Yeah.
just, now it's like, no, I'm going to prioritize peace
Yeah.
and, you know, my sleep and well-being and all those things for me ahead
Yeah.
of what anyone else might worry about.
Yes. Yes. Music to my ears. I love this.
Yes.
Also, that also just feels like what freedom in that, right? Being able to say what you need and want, being free of the guilt or the like, what's somebody going to think or blah, 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 it doesn't matter. But, being free of that must also feel incredible.
Oh, yeah, feels great. I'm like, you know what? I don't really care what people think about me. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
make myself happy and myself and my son and
Yeah.
do my own thing and
Yeah.
live my life.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, would you have, and I'm just very curious, like, when we started working together, would you have ever guessed that this is where you are now?
I think I would have hoped, but I think it would have felt like a far off hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I think in new sobriety, like you're just grasping at like every day, right? So you're
Yeah.
not thinking much about, you know, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah.
You just can't even get there.
Yeah.
And so no, I would never have thought this. Um, I'm just so glad that we're here now and that
Yeah.
it feels like all of that version of myself feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that feels really great. It just feels
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Ah, growth. I love it. Um, okay. And also I'm just so happy for you. And I'm so happy about what you have created and what this version of your life now looks like. And like getting alcohol out of the way just created space for like all of this growth and all of these, different shifts and changes in your life. And it's awesome. It's
I think
awesome.
that that mental capacity to think about anything else, and
Yeah.
everything else just opens the door for, okay, well, for you to realize that all the things that maybe you were putting on hold that you enjoy, that you
Yeah.
just weren't doing, or
Yeah.
the stuff that you always said, oh, I'd like to try that, that you just never had the time or the wherewithal to like to take on,
Yeah.
and it just, yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of possibility out there. And
Yeah.
when most of your free time isn't taken up by worrying about alcohol, it's like, oh my God, I do have the time to do these things, or
Yeah.
try them out, or see if I like them, or, you know, go new
Yeah.
places, just all of
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
there's just so much possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Um, okay, so you heard me on a podcast. We got on the phone together. Was there anything at all that almost prevented you from signing up and like taking the leap?
I think once that I had heard you and then we connected, there
Mhm.
wasn't going to be anything that was going to stop me. The only thing might have been just fear, uh,
Yeah.
fear of making those changes and what those changes would mean in my life for like my family, my relationships.
Yeah.
If I was committed to being a sober person,
Mhm.
what was that going to look like in every other aspect of my life? It wasn't
Yeah.
just me. I had family, and you know it wasn't just about me. So I think that it was just the fear of what all that was going to mean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I think at first, maybe I was concerned about investing a little bit in
Yeah.
financially investing in the work, but
Yeah.
I just something inside me, I knew that now was the time, and that there was no better way that I could invest in myself than in having an advocate who would help me to like hold my hand through the process and also guide me through the process that I couldn't do by myself, obviously, since I tried before and it was, not, it didn't last, and
Yeah.
I just felt like after I get over that initial fear, it was like, nope, this is it, and
Yeah.
once we were working together, I didn't have any, you know, the word I'm looking for, Amy, reservation.
Reservations. Great.
I
I was
didn't,
going to say hesitations, but
yeah,
yep.
yes, sure.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't have any. Once I pulled the trigger and we started working, it was like, oh yeah, this was the right thing for me to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of already answered it, but I'll ask it anyway. And if you did, just say so. But what did make you pull the trigger?
I think it was just that feeling stuck and knowing that I really had been feeling stuck for a while, and I really
Yeah.
wanted to change, and I
Yeah.
really needed the help to change.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you just have to admit that you need help, and that you can't do everything on your own, and
Mm.
they don't have all the tools on your own. And no matter how much you read the quit lit, which I did, read like every single book there is out there, and no matter
Yeah.
how into podcasts or join like groups that can help you, help whatever the advocacy groups, it's nothing replaces a one-on-one conversation with somebody who is listening to your individual needs and who is helping you work through your individual challenges. And
Mhm.
for me, that was just the best thing that I could have done, just having that one-on-one. And even if you didn't have the group programming then when we
Mhm.
talked, it was all one-on-one, and then you eventually started doing some group programming. That also would have appealed to me too, just to like
Mhm.
have another entree into into coaching, and I think that could be a good entry point if somebody's like scared or you know
Yeah.
nervous for any reason.
Mhm.
I think that there's a lot of different offers that you have that really help people
Yeah.
and meet them where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, thank you. What would you honestly say to someone who is thinking about working with me?
I would say that just do it. If you are feeling like you're ready to make changes and that you're ready to become the best version of yourself and to challenge yourself to grow and meet those expectations you've had for yourself, that it's the time that just do it. You won't regret it, and you're going to start feeling like a whole different person. And it's just like it sounds cliche, but the world of your oyster. Like there's so many opportunities, there's so many
Yeah.
opportunities for growth. There's so many opportunities for learning. There's so many opportunities to be the person that you've always wanted to be, and to, you know, change your career, change your, you know, friend group, change your, whatever you have to change to make your life feel more like what you want and more peaceful, more tranquil and calm. And just do it, because that this work is what can allow you to get to all those things that you've always wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so well said. And I could not agree more. Um, I think sometimes we get stuck when we think about alcohol not being in the picture in our lives, when we've, entwined it with so many different things. But I think what ends up happening is, all these doors open in terms of what becomes available to you. And as you said earlier, there is the time, and you're not hungover, and you're not mentally foggy, and you have so much more spaciousness to, entertain spending your time differently, doing new hobbies, hanging out with different people. Like all of these things just become a possibility, which is really very exciting. um, is there anything else you would like to add?
I think I just would like to say that, I think a lot of people would probably say this in talking to other people who have stopped drinking, is just that roller coaster of emotions that you would just be on all the time. And that, like, and that, very quick to be, to like, quick to anger, quick to agitate, all that stuff that I felt. I just feel it feels so good to be more even keeled, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. It just
Yeah.
feels so nice to not be like worked up a lot of the time. Like it's
Yeah.
just feels so much more at ease in general.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think the things that we were looking for, that like effortless feeling, or that, carefree feeling that we thought we were going to get from drinking, at least the
Mhm.
first couple of drinks, that feeling is actually more found in this space where you're just like constantly more even, as opposed
Yeah.
to like drinking to try to get even for an hour, or like
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
up, down. And
Yeah.
it's when you remove that, and it takes some time, but when you
Yeah.
get, it's like it's like coming back to like stabilization. It's like it's
Yeah.
you were before,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's so nice to just not be so all over the place.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I was also on, and it makes sense, right? Because alcohol is a depressant, it impacts our moods, our everything. But, I also was so up and down. And after a night of heavy drinking, I was always in such a like deep, dark hole. And it didn't even occur to me that
Yeah,
alcohol might, in fact, be taking me there. But yeah, just actually understanding what your mental and like emotional baseline is,
right.
and not having such huge fluctuations. Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Like 14 or 15. It's like you don't remember what
Yeah.
your norm was,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You were all the
Totally.
formative years, so you were growing and developing your personality anyway. But then it's like it's almost like you have to relearn who you are
Mhm.
in so many ways, and like meeting yourself again,
Yeah.
as a non-drinking adult, you
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
weirdest thing to think about, but it's like, oh, this is
Mhm.
what, like, I could be so much more calm like all the time, and so much less phased by things. Like
Yeah.
it's really, it's so nice to just be like, oh wow, that just happened. Like, okay, it's not the end of the world.
Mhm.
You know, everything's gonna be fine. Let's
Yeah.
move through it.
Yeah.
Problems without like panicking. It's so much better. It's so much better.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, couldn't agree more. Calm, peace. Yes, like that's all I want in my life. Peace.
Love,
That's all I want at this point.
we're like better sleep,
Yeah,
calm, no more chaos. And that's something else I was just talking to a friend that's also sober about. It's just like getting rid of the people and the things in your life that kept you in a constant circle of chaos, whether it was
yeah,
just energy
yep,
or that frenetic energy
yeah,
that people have about them when you're constantly like searching for the next like party or place you can
yeah,
go, and and the whirlwind that's created around that, and it just feels
yeah,
so to just be able to step back. And now I like watch other people going through that, and
yeah,
I feel bad, but I also feel like so grateful that I'm not caught up in that anymore. It's really,
yeah,
but then I also feel really grateful that I am so removed, and I'm like, ooh, I'm so sorry you're still there, but I'm really happy that I'm not.
yeah, yeah. I totally get that. I totally get it. Yeah, the frenzy and the chaos. No, thank you. I'm good over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Um, okay, great. Well, this was lovely. You're the best. Thank you so much for so generously sharing these parts of your experience with me and these parts of, your sober journey. And I'm I'm just so thrilled for you, and I'm also so happy that I've gotten to continue to see how things progress for you because we stopped working together a while ago, but we're friends now. So
Right.
it's just been so beautiful and so lovely, and I'm just like so thrilled for you.
Well, thank you. And I'm so grateful that the universe, whatever it was, put you in my path. And,
Mm.
I happened to be listening to a podcast that day, walking in a cemetery as I do. And and there you were. And I was like, oh, I wonder if this person works with people remotely because I am not in Canada.
Yeah,
And, and here we are. And
and here
I'm
we are.
so grateful for technology in that way, for putting you in my path, and for Zoom and being able to do these calls without having to be in the same space. And
Yeah.
it's all great.
Yeah, it is all great. That's a great note to end on. So thank you. And yeah, I feel really excited for folks to hear your story. I'm sure they're going to be able to really resonate with lots of those, lots of parts of you. So thank you again. This has been lovely.
Always.
Okay.